Hey everyone, welcome back to another Secret Stash tasting video. This time we have a really fun coffee from my friends at Moonwake Coffee Roasters here in Bay Area from San Jose, California. This is Kokose Kebele, which is a naturally processed Ethiopian coffee. We've featured a lot of really interesting coffees, especially, wash processes, cleaner coffees, more, I would say, expressive clean coffees, especially coffees from South America. Now it is time to kind of shift gears and play with this coffee, which is a really interesting, naturally processed Ethiopian. This is a very fruit-forward coffee, so if you've ever had Ethiopian coffees, maybe thinking about a blueberry bomb experience, this is going to be something in the same line as that. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy the recipe that I've created for it, but this is a very light coffee. Please let it rest. For this specific coffee, I definitely recommend you rest it for at least 3, maybe 4 weeks before you begin brewing. So by the time you guys get it in, it's probably going to be pretty fresh. This is also a very lightly roasted coffee, so you have a lot of different ways in how you can extract it. The recipe that I went with is actually on the coarser end to try to push faster flow rates, especially because a lot of Ethiopian coffees do create a fair bit of fines. So if you are at the finer grind sizes, you might find a little bit of, I would say, a blendier profile, but this is a very loud and fruit-forward coffee. I get a lot of red fruits, berries, things like stone fruits, of course, in the natural form. What's also interesting about this coffee is you get this kind of more, I would say, creamier body. So you could perceive that as maybe the coffee being a little blendier, but I would say that that could go away as you rest the coffee a bit more. But let's go ahead and brew. For those of you who haven't seen Ethiopian beans, especially naturally processed ones, they are very, very tiny. Look at how small some of these coffee beans are. But we'll go ahead and brew. Definitely the sample I have is a bit on the fresher end. Again, with these coffees, let them rest. A lot of the coffees we pick for Secret Stash are on the lighter end, and they do require a few weeks of rest before you enjoy. Smells, I do actually get a little of florality in it, but you do get that fruitiness, kind of that rounding creaminess that you can perceive out of naturally processed Ethiopian coffees, especially when you're brewing. So we'll let this brew, but definitely on this coffee, you can experiment with a variety of grind sizes. I would say that try to keep the temperature decently hot. I'm brewing this around 93, 94 Celsius, and then I have a sort of declining temperature, but you can totally push this coffee in so many directions, and you will have various kind of red fruits or blue fruits. So you get like strawberries, blueberries in various directions. There's definitely I think this is a slightly more red leaning coffee at times with this pomegranate note at the back, but very fruity smelling, tasting. It's kind of that classic, it's just kind of nice to have a natural Ethiopian at times. All right, this is done brewing. Let's try to cool this coffee down a little. We're spilling everywhere, but let's try to have a taste of this coffee. So definitely get that creaminess that you might have experienced out of natural Ethiopians. It has that kind of like you get some florality and peach out of those like washed Ethiopians, but for me, naturals usually have a creamy note that I can smell. And you do get that kind of, I think fermentation, I don't want to say funk, but ferment that you can smell from natural process. And taste-wise, definitely I have a very fresh roast of this coffee, but fruit forward. Red fruit, blue fruit. Definitely would say pomegranate and maybe something like hibiscus towards the end, but very fruit forward expression of coffee. I think that's what they say about this coffee as well. But yeah, this is just a nice example of, I would argue, very cleanly processed naturals. A lot of times you might think about naturals as a little funky, a little fermenty. Yes, this has a lot of those properties of, yes, this you can clearly tell. I hope you can clearly tell this is a naturally processed coffee, but it doesn't have a lot of those attributes towards the back, I would say, like where you have the funk being a little too much, or kind of just things taste like, pure pulpiness. This is like nice fruitiness, fruit forward coffee. That does have that heavier weight, that creaminess, but it is quite pleasant. It's not overly done, if that makes sense. Very red fruity, blue fruity, fruitiness forward coffee. I really like Ethiopians that taste like this because you get just this classic presentation, or, you know, nowadays in the world of processed coffees, a lot of people are playing around with fermentations, especially, you know, anaerobic, co-ferment, so on and so forth. It is really nice to have a coffee that is this expressive in the natural form, right? Like, this is a great example of doing it the classic way, but kind of adapted to the modern age, where I would say a lot of modern coffee, especially with the more processed and fermented coffees, people want some level of cleanliness, even if it is hyper funky, if that makes sense. It's kind of funny, but this is just done, you know, the normal way, nothing crazy, and it's a really great expression of what is possible. And I love coffees like this because these coffees kind of showcase how that first time you may have had this crazy funky Ethiopian blueberry bomb coffee, how that coffee has really evolved across the last 5 to 10 years. And now we have a coffee like this that is really, really lightly roasted, really holding up to a lot of stuff, and is not overly done in any sort of way, but presents those classic properties that kind of, it's a throwback. And it really shows like, hey, look, this is how good coffee can be. And I love coffees like this. But anyway, I'm rambling. Once the coffee cools down, oh, but so fruity, so sweet, creamy, long linger, not crazily funky. This is a great coffee. You know, I definitely think for this coffee, let it cool, let it rest, let it open up. You're going to get so much more structure, I would say, in those fruity notes, but still super, super sweet, bigger body, creaminess, red, blue colors, and it is really, really fun to sip on. So I think this is a great coffee. This is a great coffee to enjoy black. It's getting hot, at least here in the Bay Area. I definitely would recommend you brew this coffee over ice. It's going to be a coffee that can totally hold up to that. But it's just a really great representation of the natural process, the old school way of processing coffee, as we would say. But definitely, if you remember all those years ago, that first blueberry bomb experience, this is very similar to that, but very cleanly done. And I really like this coffee. So that's all I wanted to share today. This is Kokose Kebele from Moonwake Coffee Roasters, and I hope you guys really enjoy this one. Please let this coffee rest for at least a few weeks before enjoying. But otherwise, thank you so much for spending the time to watch this video. I have more coffees on Secret Stash coming up soon, and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya. This coffee's great.